Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I've been thinking whether I should do this video or not, but I think I am. As you can tell from the title, I'm gonna give you some gift ideas for the holiday season, and I hope you will like these. I have to say, some of these books on the list are not books that I have read, but are books that I would love to get for the holidays. So this is just me telling you what I would want to get. So the first book that started this whole list, I've been wanting for years now. And I first saw it in Barnes & Noble in New York in its hardcover form, and it was so gorgeous and so beautiful, and I was just like, and this is Anything You Can Imagine, Peter Jackson and the Making of Middle-earth. This is obviously good for anyone who is a Lord of the Rings, especially those who think the movies are better than the books, which there are a lot of people who think that. And it's, you know, fine, whatever, everyone has an opinion. As someone who loves watching all the documentaries behind making of the Lord of the Rings movies, this just sounds like an incredible book. And I obviously don't have it here, I don't have it now, but I remember flipping through it, and the hardcover edition is of great quality paper, and there are pictures and drawings in it, and I think this would be so good for anyone who is a Lord of the Rings fan. Next up, I have The Other Bennett Sister. This is a book that came out this year, which is great because if you know someone who is a big Jane Austen fan, they probably have not gotten around to buying it yet, and you can do that for them. It is a pretty big book from what I've seen, and it's also very beautiful. And looking at Goodreads, the average rating for this book is 4.15, which is really high. So there's a good chance they will love this book. Oh, if you don't know anything about this book follows Mary, the bookish, ugly duckling of Pride and Prejudice. What happens to her after Pride and Prejudice ends, and I've heard great reviews of this book. Next up, something for the true crime lovers, is Dead Mountain, the untold true story of the Dyatlov Pass incident. I chose this one because while it is a true crime story, because it's set in Russia and this was back in the 60s, it's not as well known. So if someone you know is a true crime fan, there's a big chance they may not have heard of it. But then again, there are a lot of books on it, so even if they heard it, there's a chance they haven't heard this version of it. And this is about an incident that happened in 1959 in Soviet Russia. A group of 9 experienced hikers in the Russian Ural Mountains died mysteriously on an elevation known as Dead Mountain. No one really knows how they died. There are a lot of weird, you know, elements to the story that has created like over 100 theories of what could have potentially happened on that mountain. And this is a book that I also want to read. So, and then there's another book that is a true crime book. This is obviously good for someone who's interested in true crime, but also someone who maybe is interested in business, in marketing, someone who likes that aspect but may not yet know that they like true crime, and that is Bad Blood. I feel like if you're a hardcore true crime fan, you probably have read this book, though I don't want to make assumptions. I don't know if you had. I had. It is so good, like so good. And because the setting is the Silicon Valley, and it's about this woman who creates a giant company out of thin air, and it's just, I think it's absolutely fascinating. So if you know someone who is potentially interested in sort of these in books about companies, this could be like a good twisty one, because it is about like a successful company, but then, you know, it all turned out to be nothing. And I think it's absolutely fascinating. And next up, I want to recommend a whole collection of books, and this is the Canongate Myths collection. Now it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books in it, and I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can gift someone all 8 books if you want. I feel like even if you choose 1 or 2 or 3 out of these, it will be a beautiful gift. They are beautiful, and they're paperbacks and they look so good together. The colors are wonderful, and all of these books are sort of a myth retelling. Karen Armstrong, A Short History of Myth, which is what it is. Then there's Wait by Jeanette Winterson. This is the retelling of the story of Heracles and Atlas, something that I would love to read. Then there is The Penelopiad by Margaret Atwood, which I read and I absolutely adored, and this is the story of, I guess, the Odyssey told from Penelope's point of view. Then there's Philip Pullman, The Good Man Jesus and the Scoundrel Christ, which I know nothing about. Then there's David Grossman, Lion's Honey, and this is the story of Samson. Alice Smith, Girl Meets Boy. This is a retelling of Ovid's Metamorphoses. I'm Not in Focus, Focus on Me. And then there's Ragnarok by A.S. Byatt, which is probably Norse mythology retelling, and Dream Angus, the telling of the Celtic myth of Angus, god of dreams. So the reason why I wanted to include these is because, first of all, they are beautiful, as I've already mentioned, and they look very good together. So if you give like a pack of like 3 books, it will be like a beautiful presentation, and it's also good for people who are interested in myths. So recently books like Circe, Song of Achilles have been really popular, so if you know someone who has enjoyed those, they might enjoy these as well. Next up is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. This is for anyone who is an Agatha Christie fan. So the Magpie Murders, the main character is a book editor, and in the beginning of the book she opens the manuscript from one of her clients who is very famous for his detective series set in the 20s, 30s Britain, and she starts to read that book, and you read it with her, and that story is very much reminiscent of Agatha Christie books. But then there's no ending because the ending is missing. She calls her editor and finds out that the guy died. So during this book, she's trying to solve the murder of the author, but with that mystery also trying to uncover what is the ending of that book, who is the murderer in that story. And I loved it so much. When I read it, I gave it 5 stars, and I like that it's layered and it has like a story within a story. So if you kind of have an idea about, you know, who's the killer in that story, you still have questions about the other one, and they're kind of connected as well. So it's a fun time. And now for someone who enjoys pop culture and celebrity memoirs, I would really recommend gifting them the Anna Kendrick Scrappy Little Nobody book. I picked it up. This was, I think, the first book I read in 2020, and it was on audiobook. I got it from the library, and it was the kind of book that I needed something to listen to, and I cannot say that I'm like the biggest Anna Kendrick fan. I do enjoy her. I have nothing against her. I watched a lot of movies with her, and it was available, and I thought, why not? I'll listen to it. And it was so good. It was so good. It was very funny. It had very interesting stories, both about her professional life and her personal life, and it's just it really took me by surprise how much I enjoyed it. And I think it's the kind of book, I remember seeing it on shelves when it came out. When I was in New York, I kept seeing it everywhere in Barnes & Noble, and I always thought, you know, I'm not that big of a fan to actually pay for it and buy it, because what if I don't like it? What if it's just like for people who like really like her and would, you know, read whatever she wrote? And now I can definitely say that that's not the case. So if you know someone who might feel this way, yeah, if you know someone who likes pop culture, they might really enjoy this. The last book that I want to recommend is Column of Fire by Ken Follett. Now, technically, this is the 3rd book in the Kingsbridge series, which starts with Pillars of the Earth and then goes to World Without End, and this is the third one. However, though those books can be read separately because even though they talk about Kingsbridge, which is a town in Britain, there's like several centuries between each one of these, so none of the characters in the last two books are alive in this one. Plus, this one is a little different and actually got some criticism because people were expecting sort of the same vibe and story that they got in Pillars of the Earth and World Without End, where in those books this story, the plot is concentrated on Kingsbridge, on that town and people who live in there, while A Column of Fire, it does something different. It does start in Kingsbridge. So this book takes place in the middle of the 16th century, right before Elizabeth is to take the throne. This is very much the story of Elizabeth and Mary Stuart and their fight for the throne of England and the religious wars of, you know, Catholics and Protestants. We follow a lot of characters in England, in France. This is more like a world politics view. It reminds me more of his Century trilogy, but if you know someone who's into historical fiction, is generally interested in the Elizabethan era, in political intrigue, this would be so good. I cried when I finished this book, not because it was sad, but because I was sad to finish this book. That's how much I loved it. And like with other books by Ken Follett, we start with our lead character, Ted, when he's a young man who, you know, has ambitions and wants to do so much and tries to find his way in the world, and we finish when he is an old man, and it's just so beautiful. Then I thought of doing like non-book gift recommendations, but I only came up with 3 and they're not very good. I mean, I'm still gonna mention them, but just keep in mind that I know these are not the best. As I mentioned, this is very much based upon my own tastes and what I would enjoy to be gifted. So this is definitely not for everybody. But if you know someone who enjoys burning incense, I would like to recommend these Morningstar incense sticks. I only have 2 now. I used to have 3 and they look so beautiful together. I mean, this is cheap and easy, but it's such a beautiful packaging, and they look so good together. So this could be one. Then I was gonna say a candle because everyone loves a candle, so a candle, whatever candle you want. And then the last one is on a more like expensive option is, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Kaweco pen. They have a very like high-end line, but the collection that I want to talk to you about is the Kaweco Sport. They are so beautiful. The colors are incredible, and they have fountain pens and roller pens and ballpoint pens. Personally, I have the light blue fountain pen, which I adore and I use it almost every single day. I gifted my sister a red ballpoint pen, which she loves. I feel like it's a good gift for someone who would really appreciate like a good pen. Anyway, these are it, and I hope this was interesting. Let me know if you have any gift ideas for me now that you know what I'm interested in. Yeah, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.